Julian. Perfect. My goodness. Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes, man. Dude, this was super like crazy. Oh my goodness.
It only took an hour, right?
Dude, it was brutal. Long story short, I don't know why there's so you said no time, there's just like open discussion. Oh, the time is actually going. Wow, I didn't notice that. Okay, great. Okay, so perfect. I was able to broadcast, so you don't have to worry about the broadcasting aspects. I was able to broadcast, but just to follow up where we left off earlier, and I'm happy this is an open discussion, so now we just shoot the breeze, whatever. But you talked about, I mean, it basically seems clear to me, according to what you discussed earlier, that you demonstrate like you basically, in my opinion, you demonstrate a lack of understanding for the purpose of government, because your whole premise is basically saying that if you have the ability to tax something, that should be a legitimate reason to legalize it. And now I just want to challenge that premise, that if taxation is something, is the legal means for legalizing it, why stop with just prostitution? We should go to even extending it to legalizing drugs, legalizing that kids can cut school, and we should just continue to the point where a lot of restrictions we have on the law today, we should not even apply it no more, because the whole premise is if it brings revenue to government, it's therefore like legitimized. And I don't know if you want to respond to that.
Oh, sure. I think that you're actually well, let me. That's not the best way. Let me. It's late. We, of course, you already have this discussion, and so yeah, this is kind of more of just an open discussion. And I have some points as well, but I think when you say the thing here is when you talk about taxation, that really only applies to a legalized model, which I mean, of course it does. The thing is that it also applies to a decriminalized model, which I'm actually not against, but I believe that it should be regulated. So therefore, I think it should be legalized. So I'm calling for regulations. But the thing is, when it's decriminalized, it can still be taxed, and because I'm sure you've heard that Al Capone went to jail for not paying his taxes, right? We've heard all this before, that Al Capone went to jail for not paying his taxes. This is one of the things that he was doing that he didn't pay taxes on. It was prostitution. I mean, most of it was liquor, which was illegal at the same time, but he was also involved in prostitution, and he went to prison for not paying taxes on it. So even if it's just decriminalized, you actually still owe the government a tax on it, even if it's money that's done through a criminal enterprise like Al Capone would run. So that's actually how the government runs. As far as legalizing drugs, I don't have a problem legalizing drugs either. What is it?
I disagree. I don't believe that. I don't believe that the purpose of government is to collect revenue through taxes. I don't believe that's the purpose for government. I personally believe.
That's not what I'm saying. That's not my argument.
That's part of your argument, because you're basically arguing for it to be legalized. So that's one of the effects, legalizing it.
Well, I believe it should be regulated, so therefore I do believe in a tax, but no, it's not the central reason. I gave 5 central reasons, and I heard a lot of moral objections, but they were all kind of just a slippery slope, like saying that the next thing you know, we're going to legalize drugs and this and that, and all morality and government will be thrown out the window. No, of course not. As I illustrated in our debate, I said it would stop human trafficking. I said that it would liberate the workers through 2 contention points. That would give them labor rights, and it would stop violence. I said that it would stop disease. I said that it would actually help control drugs.
Stop disease.
I said it would help the disabled. I said it was a victimless crime.
Give me a break, dude.
Yeah.
It's like you said it would stop. You said it would stop disease, dude. Give me a break. Like, that can only expand disease, man. Like, Dude, that's ridiculous. That's a ridiculous statement, man. That's a ridiculous.
Okay, Sebastian? How is if it's regulated where just let's just say it's a heterosexual man and woman, and the man is paid the patron. If there can be a law that says that he has to wear a condom, and that process in Nevada there is a law that says the man has to wear a condom, and there's also a law that prostitute is tested every week.
Just because you wear protection, that doesn't necessarily hint that look, nothing is safe, dude. Nothing is 100%, dude. That you still are at risk of catching STDs. You're still are at risk, man.
It's voluntary, and there's a minimal risk, but people have been doing this in Nevada as I was training for a long time.
There's no minimum risk. Are you serious? There's no minimum risk. What's the minimum risk of exposing yourself?
If you're using protection, then yes, there's a risk, but you're accounting for that, and that's the best you can do, and it's still voluntary. And it's not like that, when this all started. And it's not like that these things don't exist. We have this, and we have healthcare for that. We have the products exist. I think in an old-fashioned way, like if this were 200 years ago or something, maybe it might be a good idea because we don't have birth control and we don't have ways to control STDs, to just say it should be flat out illegal, because I don't know how regulation would help, but we have regulation to help, and you're not accounting for that.
Look,
and it doesn't have to be regulated.
It doesn't. What you just said, it doesn't have to be regulated.
Well, I mean, it could be decriminalized, but I'm not arguing for that. I'm just saying I'm not against it, but I'm not arguing. I'm not arguing for it. I'm saying it should be regulated. I'm saying it should be legalized where it is regulated.
Man, I personally, I don't agree with that at all. And now to switch to another point, to sort of touch on another point on my opposition to why why it should not be legalized, and I believe it touches on some of your contention points. It doesn't touch on it bluntly. It doesn't touch on, but it does touch up on it. But one of the effects that will come about with your premise that if you legalize prostitution is that you now will open prostitutes and who are women, that is, to violence from males and like outside the workplace, because now if a male feels, hey, okay, she's pretty expensive, but man, do I want to do her, he can wait for her to get out of work and then he can rape her and abuse her, dude. And you see this in similar cases when you use the analogy of comparing it to drugs. I mean, if someone can't buy drugs, what do? They wait for that drug dealer is caught slipping in Brooklyn. That's how we call it, when we caught slipping, when you're basically not paying attention, and then they come and they rob you of your drugs, and then they take that from you. And basically you now no longer have a means of taking care of yourself by selling drugs. In the same way, prostitutes can be open now to assaults from males who feel they're expensive, but man, like they're so visually appealing, and I would love to do them. And so the process.
That's my point, Sebastian. That's my point. I'm saying that to help this situation, to help these people, to stop this violence, it has to be regulated. It has to be above ground. That means that there isn't someone waiting around the corner to cut your throat, or it means that you can regulate a pimp through the Nevada model that I'm advocating, this legalized model. There's a way to control that, which in your model there isn't. So that's why there's the cutthroat waiting around the corner. That's why there's the pimp and so forth and so on.
You're assuming that just because you regulate something, that does not hinder someone. Like, don't you understand? Throughout human history, human beings have always been looking to escape the law, escape sanctions. Human beings, like, you have regulations on taxes. You have people get taxed, but people are always exploiting taxes. People are always looking ways to exploit taxes, as you made with the Al Capone case. So I don't understand why you would feel that, hey, if we regulate pimps, that in some way they will not seek to exploit women in other ways in different countries, dude. I mean, I really don't understand that. You have to understand human beings are immoral by nature, and they will always seek to exploit the law. Wherever you put sanctions on human beings, human beings will always seek to exploit it.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It should be regulated more than decriminalized. That's why I use the word legalized, not decriminalized. I think the best case scenario would be for legalization and not full decriminalization, not for depenalization, even though that's what many feminist groups believe in.
And dude, like I really don't see the correlation, how regulation will affect anything, dude. I mean, regulation does like little. I mean, yeah, you can regulate it, thinking that it'll sort of like basically bring it more in the open. But I mean, you automatically dismiss the fact that it's still will basically, it's like, just because you regulate it, it still won't stop human trafficking from happening in other parts of the world. It still won't stop.
I don't have a responsibility to do that. I don't have a responsibility to do it here. And you know, if you go back to Nevada and you go and you, like I've said, Las Vegas, they don't have it there. I mean, you don't have to have it if you don't want it either. It's just recognizing it under state law.
And just because you regulate it, that doesn't mean that prostitutes will not still be abused. In other ways. I mean, you can have pimps connected with people from like other parts of the world that would be able to do a conspiracy and do some corruption ring where they abuse the prostitutes and they basically force the prostitutes to.
How are you going to stop that, Sebastian? Huh? How are you going to stop that? Because we talked about this.
You don't make it legal. That's how you stop that. You basically don't make it legal. And that basically stops it. That because, dude,
how's that working for you?
Huh? What's that?
How's that working for you?
How is it working? Look,
yeah.
In states states where prostitution is not legal, you like I can bet that the statistics with the rate of violence towards women, rape cases are very, very low. Versus Nevada, like you glorify Nevada. I mean, and I guarantee you that in Nevada there are rape cases that are probably higher than the national average. In compared to other states, this would have to be on a state by state comparative basis, and you would have to look at the statistics from precincts, and then you would have to compare them.
Where it's legal,
huh?
Nevada is the only state where it's legal. It's heavily decriminalized, and I think it's Rhode Island, but Nevada is the only one that's legal. And Rhode Island is not. It's not completely decriminalized either. It's just more. It's the model is closer toward it.
Look, man. I mean, but now there was another point I was making why I oppose this. I mean, I talked about the family structure as well. I talked about how single families, like you'll have more single family homes. And you'll basically destroy the fabric of the family, which I believe is foundational for basically creating the identities of children. And if you have prostitution legal, you like girls now being raised in a household where the mother is a prostitute and the dad tolerates it, will basically see this as a appropriate thing for females to go into. And another thing about choice. You argue for choice. Just because someone has the choice to do something, that does not legitimize it as okay. There are consequences to every choice you make. And the thing is, you can live with the consequences of those choices. Hence, what I'm saying is that you can give women choice, to do whatever they want with their bodies. But that doesn't mean that choice that has no bearing on the measurement on the measurement on how that, on whether or not that choice, the positive, and it doesn't measure the positive and the negatives. Yeah, they're making money, but they're also exposing themselves to people out there who can basically harm them. I'm not arguing based on emotion. There's a statistic. According to a think tank organization, and you can verify the source, and viewers can verify the source. It's according to the Christian Science Monitor organization. And they report that prostitutes are beaten at an average of 12 times per year. Now, I don't understand, now that I tell you this, why, if you continue to support your presupposition that it should be legalized, why you would want that to be legal and you value human rights. I don't see the correlation. I do not see how the cause that you're pushing for leads to that effect. I personally don't.
Well, I have a way to solve this, and you don't. I think is what it comes down to. Because like when you say that there could be like the guy can't afford it or whatever, so he's gonna wait outside. The thing is that it's legal, so that means that man could be arrested, whereas under your system he couldn't be. So there's a huge difference right there. And it's all on. I mean, if you look,
nonsense.
Sebastian, I listen to you.
That's nonsense.
And if you go to the Netherlands or Nevada, it's all on tape. So if you go to the Netherlands or Nevada, it's all on tape. They tape everything. You have to ring a bell to go in there. They're watching everything. They have plenty of security. And as far as immorality, I mean, women have a right to their sexuality too. But let me put it this way. That mother who's abusing drugs and prostituting herself to support her habit, under a legalized system, people aren't going to go to her. They're not going to want to go to somebody like that. They can go to somebody who's clean. They know they're clean because they're tested. They treat the woman ethically. They don't have to see they don't want to see a customer. They don't have to see the customer. As opposed to, they would, if under your system, it really wouldn't matter. You say that they're just waiting to rape them. So that mother would be protected, and it would at least be in an honest way. And as I keep illustrating, and because this is the big thing, it's supply and demand. There's no way to get rid of the demand in this case. That's just, I mean, that's really all there is to it. There's just no way to get rid of the demand. Something we can do is control the supply side. And one thing that when I watched our previous debate again, is you seem to think that making this legal would all of a sudden create more demand on for prostitution, for actual prostitutes. They're already out there. We all know they're already out there. That anyone, I mean, it's on the internet. I saw it. I saw prostitutes outside those fancy hotels in Manhattan. So I know we know that they're out there, and this is really the only ethical way to control this. This is the only direction that we can go to, because you're not accounting. You're not giving me a solution. You're just, and the thing is that it is illegal and it has failed, and everyone knows this. It's good that there's all this human issues with human trafficking and pimping, and there's an opiate epidemic, all this stuff. The only way to get this under control is to stop pretending like it's 200 years ago, and they just make it an honest system. Just make it an honest system. People have a right to their self-determination.
Are you done?
Yeah, go ahead.
Not that, I mean, dude, look, people have a right to their own self-determination, but just because that self-determination, there is, you're coming from a different worldview, and I'm coming from a different worldview. And I hope that we can have a conversation on worldviews eventually, because your worldview, you don't have a basis for ethics. So when you talk about ethics, I'm just like, where are you getting that from? Because according to your worldview, we're animals. There is no ethics. There is no right and wrong, and so human life is meaningless. So they can choose whatever they want to do, how they want to do it. Now, you talked about how I said, you talked about how, hey, Sebastian, you're not providing a solution. My solution is to basically criminalize it. My solution is do not legalize it. That's my solution, because I'm looking at the effects of a boy growing up, seeing this promiscuity in society, this openness, this sexual revolution, and just going out there thinking it's justified. So so there is no morale, because if it's legalized, then I should be able to go out there and rape a woman, because this is what women are for. They're objects. This is what they're for. There are careers that are training women in prostitution. There are schools. They take them on brothels trips. Hey, sex is it's a revolution. We should do whatever we want with our bodies, and nobody should tell us what to do. I mean, that's what your logic really boils down to, Julian. And you can deny all you want, man. That's what it boils down to. There is no standard. There is no limit. I mean, and if you abuse it, because at this point, a woman is an object, so you can do whatever you want with the woman. You can abuse the woman, and who is to say it's wrong? Who says to say wrong?
I'm not saying they're an object. I'm saying they have right to their sexuality.
They have right to their sexuality.
They don't have to be, and they don't have to be used that way because I'm taking the incentive away from the pimp because he can be regulated, and I'm destroying the market for human trafficking. So I'm helping the woman. Anyway, I mean, it could be a gay guy. It could be a gay guy. It could be a woman. It could be a man selling them. They could selling themselves to a woman, a gigolo or whatever. It doesn't have to be a woman. It could be, you know.
Look, man, law that the law that you're proposing and advocating for, law does not determine good standards nor good morale. And I'm completely, I mean, and we see this in the case of Hitler. He passed a law, and that law justified murder. I mean, the same morale that I use to judge murder wrong is the same morale I'm using to judge prostitution wrong. You don't have that. You have a baseless foundation for what you're saying. A baseless foundation. You're just going by, women should have a right to do this, and so she should be able to do it. And so if
we're just debaters, we're not the judge and jurors.
According to the same logic, a woman should have the self-determination to marry her brother. Why stop at prostitution? Why don't you extend it? Why don't you just go overboard?
That's illegal. That's illegal.
It is illegal. And why not advocate for that? Because you have no moral foundation. So like you should advocate for that too. You shouldn't stop there. I mean,
it's a non-violent crime, I guess.
We didn't even talk about ethics.
No, I don't advocate for that.
Give me a break. All right. Now, another thing. I don't see how condoning a woman to allow their body, regardless if they feel of self-determination, to be abused for revenue, humane, despite if it's her choice. Julian, there is a reason every state but Nevada has outlawed brothels, and I believe that the federal government under Trump is going to do the same thing in just a matter of a couple of years. The Nevada in our generation may become illegal for prostitution. It's very, very soon. It's very, very likely. Because just legalizing prostitution in all 50 states will lead to, oh my goodness, you already see the breakdown of the family in our country today. You see a lot of single parent family homes. If the legalization in all 50 states of prostitution were to occur as you're proposing, I tell you this right now, and someday when you're 50 years old, you can say that I told you this. A boy named Sebastian told you this. I'm telling you right now, this will be the result, almost prophetic. It will lead to a decline in family values. Divorce rates would skyrocket. Young men would squander money on a meaningless sexual encounter. Dude, this problem will tug at the very fiber for the foundation of American standards where prostitution, because wherever prostitution goes, drug use, burglary, and other violent crimes will obviously follow, dude. That is just the correlation. One cause brings about these effects.
Sebastian, when you say that Trump's going to stop this, is that because of some sort of legislation that you know about?
I'm saying it's only a matter of time before, because he's been courting a lot of evangelical pastors. It's only a matter of time before these pastors, there are pastors in Nevada. It's only a matter of time before the church begins to speak out on this very, 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 very aggressively, and pressure. Huh? What?
Okay. Well, but you'll have a chance to rebut. But the thing is, I don't see him doing that. Because I see
his constituents are opposing it. 71% of his constituents oppose it. And it's 71% of his constituents that resulted in him being in office right now.
He's not going to get elected if he goes against state rights, Sebastian. It's not. I mean, I'm not saying it's good on that, or I just know that as a right-wing candidate, the chances of if you go against state rights, I mean,
It's not.
Obama did it. Obama did it, right? With his transgender executive laws, he did it. He went against state rights. State rights.
Right-wing candidate. Obama's a right-wing candidate.
Whether if it's right-wing or left-wing, they both have done it. George Bush did it. I'm not arguing right-wing or left-wing. I'm saying
they care about state rights. That doesn't make sense for him to do that because I mean maybe there are. I know that there are evangelical voters, but as a bracket, because you have to get as a bracket, the right state rights are going to trump the religious vote on the right. I'd say. And he didn't really win on a religious vote anyway. He won on conservatives who weren't traditional conservatives, basically. And that's and so I mean unless I saw something that I don't think he's good on state rights or whatever, but unless I saw something that said that, I don't know if I'd be inclined to believe it. Is this idea that it's going to hurt family values and all this stuff. Look, the demand and the supply and demand are already out there. There's plenty. Anyone go. You can find a prostitute 5 minutes after we have this debate if you want to see one already. Okay, in both New York and in Columbus. So they're already out there. Everyone knows that this is just a way to account for the violence.
Can I add a comment real fast?
The human trafficking. And all these other things that I keep mentioning, helps disabled people. I know you want to talk some more about that. And I talk about how it controls disease and really, it's a victimless crime. So there's just no point. And unfortunately, there's just no. I mean, we create the victims by it. We create them. We give that pimp a job. We give. That human trafficker, we create the demand for them to do that. I mean, because if you think about it, like let's just imagine that you were going to go on a site and find a prostitute. How do you know that they're being human trafficked or not? I mean, how would you know? There's just no way of knowing. But if you do it this way, there's a way that you would know. And there's a way that you would know that they were clean because you know that they're tested, and so forth and so on. But your way doesn't account for that. You just assume that you can stop this. And as far as like child prostitution or just the idea of human trafficking in itself, because I mean it could be anyone, the incentive is going to be less because law enforcement can target those people and if it's above ground and you know who you're seeing, then it takes a lot of the market away.
I mean, dude, just because there's this high supply and demand, dude, that still won't stop like human trafficking, dude. For you to legalize it, despite the fact there's a demand, you're only now gonna encourage human traffickers to find ways to exploit customs to get people in other parts of the world who are poor and starving into this country so that they can be exploited for sex. And they can get money so that they can send money back home to their country. Regulated.
I'm saying it should be regulated. So I'm saying that's what's going to make it difficult for them to do that. So it's just like, I don't imagine you drink, and maybe I don't know if you've ever been in a liquor store, and it's a very heavily regulated system that I'm talking about here. And the same thing like with a bar, you can't drink. Here in Ohio, you can't drink after 1. I don't know what it is in New York, but there's a lot of regulations on these things. There are laws in place to control this. And so we would know who these prostitutes, we would know who they are. They'd be registered and they'd have to test. And, if they don't test and they can't do it and they can refuse the customer. And so it's the only real clean and fair way to do this.
How about the illegal immigrants? How about the illegal immigrants living in the country who would
have to be the same laws that anyone has to, you have to show that you can work in the U.S. You have to show that you're a citizen.
Okay, what I'm saying is that the reason why I say that is because exploitation could still happen. Because just because you legalize it, you will have those who can legally be prostitutes. But at the same time now, what about those who are here illegally and who would like to jump in on this? This would open up the door for like people now to have to open up.
They can still arrest them.
Huh?
arrest them.
I mean, dude,
Well, I'm not saying that it should be legalized, that it's legalized and that it's regulated. So if you're not following those regulations, just like alcohol is legal, but I can't even make beer and sell it, I think, without a license to do that. But we definitely can sell hard liquor that you find at a liquor store. You have to get a liquor license.
That doesn't mean you can't use your garage illegally to do it. And so long as you're not getting caught, huh? Well, you speak to your friends.
Who would buy that? I don't know.
You speak to your friends, right? You speak to your friends. You speak to your friends, and your friend talks to another friend. Your friend talks to another friend, and so you guys keep it underground. I mean, dude, you make it seem like people don't do stuff underground, man. Like people do stuff underground all the time, even with selling drugs. I mean, why is it that
child prostitution is illegal anyway, and drugs are another story. Yeah, I'm saying that
drugs. No, it's the same concept. It's the same concept, bro. It's the same concept. It's the same concept. That's how you have drug dealers who are able to have big time drug rings, and they're able to.
Well, we do the drug one sometimes too, and because my take on that is similar, but it's not the same. So,
dude, look.
Just do that one.
What proves my case is that you have drug dealers who are able to escape cops all the time and still sell and make their money. So in the same way, bro, just because you legalize the thing, that doesn't mean you won't stop exploitation, especially of illegal immigrants. Just because somebody's illegal in the country, that doesn't dismiss the fact that they're human beings.
I will stop them because they can't work here. They'll have a choice. They wouldn't be able to work here.
But guess what? But guess what? They have families back home. They want work. So guess what? They will be open to anybody or exploiting them if they're promised to get some good money so that they can send back to their family and so that they can eat and to survive in a country they're illegal in. Okay, so you don't stop exploitation.
I'm calling for you can arrest them.
What?
I'm saying that it should be regulated to stop that. So I wouldn't have a problem with stopping that.
I mean,
I don't have a problem with it.
You wouldn't have a problem stopping that, but you proposing to legalize it will that's the kind of situation you create. That's the situation you create. Now police officers are going to have these
because I'm saying I'm saying that it's regulated. Again, I'm saying that just like in Nevada, they would be tested every week and they would be registered. They'd have to, it's all the same. It's the same thing like when you and I start a job or apply for a job, we have to show that.
What about those who are in the country legally? What about those who are in the country legally?
Say it again.
What about those who are in the country illegally?
Well, I mean, they wouldn't be able to. They'd have trouble finding the customers. That would be a real problem.
Yeah, but how do you test them? How do you test them now? Because guess what? Illegal immigrants in the country still work. You know that, right? And they still have access to certain people who smuggle them to work in certain industries under terrible conditions in the United States. Wait, hold on, let me finish. They still have money, right? And they can still time out. They can still buy services, right? And they can still.
No, we're gonna go to an illegal provider. It's like what we just said. Like I'm not gonna go buy whiskey from my neighbor because he's making whiskey or something. Like that's not gonna work that way. And I mean it's a quality thing. So if I know I can see someone legally, why am I gonna see someone illegally? And who isn't tested? I can so it's a much lower quality. And it can't be advertised and so forth and so on. It's not a product of the same caliber.
Okay, now what about
and I'm saying that police could shut it down. I don't have a problem with that at all.
Okay. Now what about?
I mean, I want it to be legal, so to help this. That's the reason that I want it to be legal to begin with.
Well, it clearly won't.
So if someone has if it can be in a legit, safe way, we can do it that way. And if it's not in a way that's legit, that involves, it's basically slavery, then we can focus on that and stop that. That's the whole point of this.
Dude, to exploit any woman, regardless if it's her choice, that's slavery in my world. But look, despite the fact you like okay, no, you had a valid point. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, that point you made was valid. I mean, an illegal person would not go to legal means because they'll be exposed if they go to legal means to try to get prostitution. But now, what about a prostitute? But you don't weigh the cost. Okay, how about a prostitute now who, all right, has done her job and now she goes home and she wants to make some extra money, and then she goes into a home of person who has a illegal immigrant living in that house, and that and basically sells her services to that person, and is unaware that this illegal immigrant has a disease and sleeps with that illegal immigrant, and now catches and now catches the STD, doesn't know she catches the STD.
So that's what I'm saying.
Time out. She doesn't know she caught the STD from that illegal immigrant who she basically accepted the services from off the clock, and now she goes to work the next morning and she doesn't get tested, right? She doesn't get tested, and her test is not due until another 3 months by the government agencies, and now she has sex with a client who is legal in the country and buys her services legally. Guess what? That client now just got AIDS. And guess what? That client now does not know they have AIDS. Wait, time out. That client
they're all getting, they get tested. They get tested.
Guess what? So now that client now goes home and say that client now was cheating on his wife or cheating on his spouse or whatever, and now he goes and sleeps home with his wife. Guess what? You just gave the wife AIDS. Now guess what? Time out. Now guess what? That wife now, right? Now that wife basically is also cheating on that husband, and guess what? She has 2 different partners she's cheating on the husband with behind the husband's back. And guess what now? She goes basically to sleep with 2 other men, and basically those 2 men now have STDs, and they don't even know it because they assume that because she's married, she doesn't have diseases, because her kids would have had diseases and her family seems healthy. And so now these 2 men now have AIDS, and guess what now? They basically now say now they basically now these 2 guys have STDs. They don't know they have STDs, and now they're flirting and messing around with 2 women, and now they go sleep with these 2 women. Each of them sleep with these 2 women, and now and these are women they met at clubs, and they just had one night stands. And guess what? Now you have 4 women now who have AIDS, and now these 4 women now are actually dating a guy who's and now these 4 women have men who are basically about to propose to them, who they've been dating, and those women will actually cheat on their boyfriends to be able to sleep with those men who gave them the AIDS. And so now they get married, and so the boyfriend assumes that the girl, these 4 men assume that their 4 girlfriends were being faithful this whole time. Little did they know that they just caught STDs from 2 guys who basically caught an STD from. But you understand the process of where I'm going. And so now what happens now is they get married, and now he has sex with them. They have sex with their wives, and assuming that they're clean and they were faithful this whole time. And now guess what? They catch diseases. And so now guess what? And now you have 8 of them. So now you came from 4 women having STDs and to now 8 people having STDs because they caught it from the previous people who they had sex with having the disease. And now I'm breaking this down very, very well. And not just that. So now you have kids being born into the world, and now say each of them have 2 kids. So now you have 8 different kids now who enter the world having STDs and AIDS. And so this is what it boils down to, bro. This is what it boils down to. This becomes, and guess what? This will perpetuate, and this will become a public health crisis. It becomes a public health crisis, Julian.
Well, I don't know how, but that's a really steep slope. That's a pretty steep slope to fall down, man.
What you said?
That's a pretty steep slope to fall down.
Nah, I basically broke down the logic. I basically broke it down because I just gave you how that can be exploited. I just told you, because guess what, man? Human beings always want to gratify their human flesh. They always want to gratify human flesh. Whatever seems good, whatever feels good, it's gonna be what human beings do. I mean, human beings will always want to either make more money, because now look, human beings are sometimes influenced by ambition, and this is like. And I just give you a case of a prostitute being ambitious. Her job is not enough for her. She wants to make extra money. It's all about the money, man. All about the money. So guess what? If she can easily make some extra money outside of her job, she'll go do it. And then I just gave you a case about what can happen if she does that. I just gave you a case. I wouldn't want to go for that. And that situation, that situation is a valid point because it can happen. Because why can it happen? The circumstances for it to happen are currently present in this country. If your point is really logical, and we do legalize in all 50 states, we have over 11 million illegal immigrants living in this country to date. I obviously know about 10 of them. 2 of them who I see very often in New York, and New York is a sanctuary city. So, this is open haven. I meet illegal immigrants all the time. So it's really hurtful because I know females and males who are illegal in this country, and I sympathize with them. And it would really suck if any of these women were to be exploited in such a way because they're illegal in this country, because your proposal does not take into account, it doesn't take into account the net negatives it will set off for people in this country who are illegal, man. Like, because they may not be citizens, but they're still people and they're still living here, man. And I just gave you that, kid. I really broke it down, and it's a valid point. It's a real valid point.
There's
no way you can dispute it.
Because they're actually part of the. I mean, some people would say that migrant workers are part of the demand here. I mean, a migrant worker doesn't have might not have a woman, to be with them or whatever, however you want to put that. So some people believe this actually would help migrant workers. I mean, I'm not arguing that. I mean, but as much as I've said, I don't know how many times now that I absolutely want to do this to fight human trafficking and to fight all this sort of thing. So I'm against that, and I don't have a problem with enforcing laws against that, because I think that it should be regulated. And as opposed to decriminalized, even though I'm not really I really don't. I mean, I'm not against it being decriminalized, but this is specifically why I think that it should be legalized to account, because you're saying that there's a flaw of capitalism and in this situation, and I'm not saying that there isn't in this situation, but I'm saying that it should be regulated because for those reasons, like you're saying, like people are so poverty and these problems with capitalism. I'm saying that this accounts for those things. You're not. So I have a net positive. You're not showing a net positive or a net negative. I'm showing a net positive.
I gave the net negative.
And how it benefits
that's a bunch of bunk.
Economically and morally.
That's a bunch of bunk. I just gave you the net negative, so you can't say I didn't give you the net negative.
The net negative. I mean, like I said, I don't even know. I mean, it's like a cartoon. How many times did the guy fall? Did the guy in the cartoon fall down the slope before he fell in the river or something? I mean, there's
You're assuming
no.
I gave you a slope. You're assuming I gave you a slope. I gave you a legitimate hypothetical that can happen should it be legalized. I gave you a net negative, and that negative is legitimate. And I concluded by saying it'll cause a public health crisis. You'll have a public health crisis in this country, multiplying before our very
public health crisis, and you're not giving a solution for that. The supply and the demand are.
I said the solution. The solution. I gave a solution. I said to criminalize it, do not legalize it, and to and also I didn't add this point before. To control our borders more border security at the borders, whatever means necessary.
We have more border security illegal
to stop illegal people from coming into this country, and stop human sex traffickers from trafficking people into this country illegally through Texas. Because I was checking back in like 3 months ago, Texas police caught 58 sex trafficking rings coming into the state of Texas from Central American countries. And so we have to have strong border security, not this crap we've had the last 8 years. I'm talking strong borders.
Well, there's a demand, but but I can control the supply side through a legalized system because I'm taking the demand away. You're illustrating the demand, but I have a way to stop that demand, and you don't.
Look, I challenged it already. Okay, I got a question. How do you dispute the statistics I gave you earlier about the think tank organization I gave you that report that prostitutes are abused? They're abused 12 times per year.
They are, and I think that should be legal so that the person who abuses them can go to prison.
Okay, so here's why I challenge you. She can get off work, and she can still be kidnapped. Just like you can be coming from your painting job and you can be kidnapped and used as a.
It's heavily secured, and then you know, it's not, they couldn't do that now, but they could do that if it were legalized. They could do that if it were legalized. If it were legalized, because then they could call the police if someone was going to harm them.
5
Someone
seconds.
would be watching.
So Julian, thank you. Have a good night.
All right. Good night, Sebastian.